morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are listening to this. I said watching this in the last episode. Ah, I apologize. But wherever you are listening to this, welcome to another episode of Debates Never Die. There's five of us here today. I am your host, Malcom Masvikwa. I am joined by fellow Gooners. We'll introduce the losers last. Fellow Gooners. We first have Khanya Mosetlhi, my brother. How are you, bro?
I'm right. I'm right. I told Oaks a few weeks ago we beat Spurs. We beat Spurs. I'm holding my tongue. Not much else to say. We'll hold up until next week. I have more to say then. I'm all right. So how are you?
Bro, I'm happy. I just ate fruit, so I'm shining. Mvuyelwa, bro, how are you, dude? Because I'm sure you're on cloud nine, man.
I'm as happy as I can be. But it's easy. Like this weekend was light work, so just on to the next one.
Then we have T-Boy the Prophets. Although I need to change that name, bro. I won't even cap. How are you feeling after this humbling weekend, bro?
All I'm saying is Sancho better watch out because if I slap, but speak on that later. I'm surviving. I'm still alive. So
You're still surviving. You're still alive, and we have a special guest today. Friend to the podcast, Matthew. He's a Spurs fan. He plays for Sundowns as a goalkeeper. My guy, how are you doing, bro?
Man, I've been better. My weekend wasn't too great. I had to watch. The less said about it, the better, you know.
The less said about it, the better. You're on the wrong show then, my friend, because we are going to deep dive. Thank you so much for being here. So to the listeners,
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. And Vu, thank you for the connects there. I really want to get a Spurs perspective and a goalkeeper's perspective on that game and just in general. So we have, listeners, we have 3 or 4 topics we'll be looking to debate this episode. Let's start off with, because I'm biased, we're going to start off with Arsenal Spurs. What a game. What a derby. I'm going to be Mugabe and go first and just give my take on this whole situation. Listen, guys, I don't want to downplay a North London derby win against Spurs. I was gassed. Partey finally scored from outside the box, which is, I never thought I'd see the day. But it is us at home, right? So for me, I have a list of games that are huge and that I look at as indicators for where we are. The North London derby at the Emirates isn't one because they haven't beaten us, I think, in eight attempts now. If this was at White Hart Lane or whatever they call it, what's the Tottenham's Hotspur Stadium or Toilet Bowl Stadium, whatever it is, if we were there and we pulled this off, I'd be feeling a lot more like a lot better. It's a great win. Spurs are always a problem for us, you know, with that tangent of Kane and Son. Those are my opening remarks. That's just kind of how I'm feeling at this point in time. Now, going to Khanya, we've had very extensive conversations about Gabriel Jesus and just what seems to be a transformative player for Arsenal. How much of his ceiling do you think is... Do you think that Gabriel Jesus' ceiling is that of, you know, a transcendental player like a Thierry Henry, given what you've seen at the start of the season and in that North London derby specifically?
100%. I think Jesus is... this is going to sound ridiculous. I think he's probably top 5 strikers in the world, like playing at his very, very best.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and I think we had this conversation in the group a few times when we were trying to imagine who we could have possibly signed had we made Champions League football. Even in that world, I wasn't considering that we could get Jesus. Like, he felt like a striker that was out of our reach. The fact that we have him honestly shocks me. Like, there aren't a lot of strikers with the ball at their feet that are as gifted as he is right now. We know we know he can score goals. You know, the system hadn't allowed him to do that. Like, I honestly think Jesus alone probably starts for every top 6 side besides City.
Can't stop.
Sorry, Tobi, what's that?
Can't stop for Brazil though. So
okay, that's cool. That's Brazil.
I won't lie. I won't lie, dude. The World Cup is coming now, and that the squads that they just released really weren't the teams that they're taking. So you may eat those words, but that's kind of your brand. But continue, Khanya.
Yeah, and even if you can't start from Brazil, that's Brazil. It's a very serious country. Like I don't think it says anything about Jesus if Richard starts ahead of him. That's a stylistic preference. And on the day, the player who scored is Gabriel Jesus, not Richarlison. So you have to hold that and make sense of that the way you best can.
Okay, no, I echo the same sentiments, bro. I think what I'm seeing with Jesus is incredible. Mvu, we've also spoken at length about what at times seems to be a very precarious mindset in this Arsenal team when it comes to really asserting themselves in this game. Did you feel comfortable throughout the full 90, or were there any moments where you were truly like, okay, Spurs are gonna win this game?
I never thought they'd win, but I do think around the 20th minute, where I think they had time to get their shape, they looked a lot more solid before that Partey goal, and it felt like we were creating a bit less. I mean, that's how like we had like 22 passes before the goal, but we weren't really putting things in the box for about 10 minutes. And the goal, yeah. So the beginning we started really, really sharply. I was not worried. To be honest, I wasn't. This is not the game that I was going to be too worried about. I've said it to Matthew as well before that I'm not really scared of the team, because we played well against them. But I think only like 15 minutes of the game where I thought we might struggle a bit, but I never once thought that we wouldn't win the game. No.
Okay, and we're gonna go a bit deeper, but I'm just starting off with like just to kind of get a feel of where you guys are. Now let's go to the Spurs supporter and the son of Antonio Conte. Let's start with Matthew. This game for me reminds me of Liverpool Arsenal. It was, I think, 1920. Pepe, I think it was Pepe's debut for us, where Liverpool beat us 3-1, and it's on the surface, it was a Liverpool day of domination, but in the game, it was a game of fine margins. Like a game of, I remember Pepe hit the post that game. We had a few counterattacks that if the right pass was played, we could have been in and really had a chance to score. Did you feel that way watching this game, that it was a game of fine margins, or did you feel like you were being dominated and didn't really have a chance to assert yourselves in the game?
I think once we equalized, I kind of thought like, okay, look, we're still there. We've got a chance, but I thought Arsenal stopped us a lot on transition, and that's what contest football is based on. So they contained well. So I didn't really. Once it was 2-1, I was like, it didn't look like we were gonna. We had moments, but it really didn't look like we were gonna threaten.
So leaving that
down, even worse.
Leaving that game, did you feel a certain level of like, okay, like there's still a blueprint for us to move with for the rest of the season, or do you feel like, okay, we need something new moving forward as a team?
No, not really, because like I'm well aware that Spurs are not really in title conversations ever. So top 4, perfect for me, and I just feel like, look, we had a great start to the season, and we're still punching their top 4, and that's where we need to be. I'm not really worried about a league title. That's going to be Man City and whoever else. But for now, look, I'm disappointed that we lost, but I'm not really mad because we didn't really derail anything. We have a chance to come playing Frankfurt in a week, so.
That's a very measured perspective. I asked those questions specifically because on the TL, I've been seeing a lot of Spurs fans. It seems like the fan base is divided. Half are coming at Conte. I saw a few Conte out tweets. The other half are kind of, along the lines of what you're saying. Still in line with where we want to be as a club. Now, that brings me to Tobi Conte. So your stepfather, bro.
Yeah.
Tell me
Toby needs to speak to us. Toby needs to speak to us this weekend.
Now, we're gonna hear a lot of Toby this episode, but Toby, I want to know, bro. Do you this brand of Conte, the football he plays? Yes, the transitional aspect is incredible, but it's different. Do you agree that it's different to say what he had at Chelsea?
Different, maybe. I don't think it's really different. I would say, I don't know. Would it be wrong with me to say that he has better personnel at Tottenham than he did at Chelsea?
Oh,
yes,
so
it would be wrong.
Okay, hold on, guys. So Toby, you feel Conte's Spurs team is better than his Chelsea team?
Well, to an extent, I think it might be.
Okay, can we go position by position, and then we can demystify this.
Let me get the
whole of the
teams
defense
out.
is probably you can argue because think about it. He was performing with Victor Moses. Let me not disrespect my friend Victor.
Have you seen Tottenham centre backs?
Let me not disrespect my friend Victor.
wait. So for you, Eric Dyer, Christian Romero, and Ben Davies or Longley are better than David Luiz, John Terry, Gary Cahill.
Okay, maybe not John Terry, but Gary Cahill can vamoose from their conversation. But,
okay, cool. Courtois versus Lloris.
I think Lloris is hard done by, but obviously,
Toby, you're lying to yourself.
No. You haven't let me finish. I just think he's disrespected a lot.
He is. He's underappreciated.
Hold on. Matthew, you said you agreed with Toby?
Yeah, because I think the best version of this might be a bit controversial. I think the best version of Courtois was what we saw last season and what we're seeing this season, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Courtois' time at Chelsea, if you compare it to Lloris's time at Spurs, I'm picking Lloris.
Yeah, bro.
In that time, we never had a better keeper than that.
Let me ask this, and Toby, I'm gonna come back to you because actually, you know what? Let me. I'll circle back to Hugo Lloris because that's what I wanted to ask you as a goalkeeper specifically. But now, Toby, so do you think Conte's football is sustainable? Like as a lover of Conte, as the founding member of his fan club, do you believe that like what he's doing with this Spurs team is sustainable over a 38 game season?
No. Okay, over a 38 game season, maybe. But I think that they can be offering a lot more. Like, we saw short spells when they were, like, they're able to pass the ball out the back, you know? Like, they're actually able to be in terms of, like, press from Arsenal. They were able to play out of the press, for example. But then, like, what I don't understand is why they don't continue to try and play like this for a while. So, all I'm saying is, if
they don't have the personnel.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay, that was what our next thing.
Also, I don't think Spurs are not an experimental kind of team. They're going to do what works for them. If
that's
they're
Spurs
winning
or Conte in general.
Or Conte, yeah. If they're winning a certain way, he's not going to change it.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. Because, for example, I spoke to a Spurs fan today, and he was talking about how that a lot of what Conte, like, for example, you know how Spence is not coming on to play Basuma, for example. Like, he's very ignorant in the players that he chooses, that if he doesn't see you as being, like, tactically inept to understand what he's doing and stuff, he doesn't actually really, like, want to play you or want to try you, for example. So, is a very ignorant manager, which is why I think maybe he's going to have to try and change a little bit, because he's going to have to implement some sort of possession football in this team.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm very happy you said you spoke about possession, because that's where I was going to take this.
Yeah. Like some form of possession football, because they can actually play. Maybe not Højbjerg and the boy, but like he can. Like,
did you say Højbjerg can't play?
Sorry, who?
Did you say Højbjerg can't play?
What? Is he really like?
I'm listening. Hold on.
Don't forget. Pep brought Højbjerg to Bayern.
No, play as in like. Okay, sorry. Okay.
No, Toby. Hold on. I'm gonna come to your defense.
Yeah.
Because I agree with what you're saying. I think Højbjerg can play, but he's a very limited footballer.
Yeah, limited. Exactly. So like, if you're talking about playing in that, like, obviously with Bentancur, that's why I'm thinking maybe they dropped Højbjerg for a while, put on Basuma, but apparently he was not tactically inept, so I don't know how that's going to work. But maybe if they try Bentancur and Basuma and see how that works, he's going to have to fix something, though. That's my chop.
No, I look, yeah, I think sorry, just to go back to the blasphemy, Spurs do not have a better team than Chelsea 16-17. There's actually
Bro,
no
they
way.
don't.
I'm
Bro, they
can
had
I
Fabregas. They
Okay,
had
but they front
Hazard.
three. But
What
they
is he talking about?
Toby,
no. Okay. Listen,
maybe you forgot. Can
maybe
I
I'm sorry.
can
Yeah,
can I read you? May I please just read you their starting 11, right?
Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea. It
Okay.
was Couture in goal. It was a back three of Aspilicueta, Luiz, and Cahill. Victor Moses, Kante, Matic, Alonso, Pedro Costa, Hazard. Off the bench, you,
Pedro Castro Hazard is probably not better than Kane, Son, and
no, it's better.
no, come, please, Kane, Son, and who's the third one? Maybe Kula.
Kulusevski.
Let me say Kulusevski. Like it's maybe the same, but I wouldn't say it's better, bro. Come on, please.
Okay, let's not deviate too much.
Victor Moses is better than Emerson Royale, by the way.
Oh, that's
Oh,
okay.
No, like
for our
let me-
listeners, you must go to that video of Emerson dancing before the game. My goodness, what a
Okay, let me bring this back. Matthew, I wanted to ask you. So Hugo Lloris, rightfully so, a legend in your ends and a legend in the Premier League, or a very well revered goalkeeper. Quite controversially, and I believe accurately, in 2018, a great man known as Malcom Masvikwa said, "David De Gea, Hugo Lloris, thank you, but you're done in this league." And in my opinion, I have a certain level of vindication in the fact that I've seen a gradual decline, or even significant in certain points in time, with those two goalkeepers. So this weekend, how much of this loss do you feel is on Hugo Lloris, and should that be a position Spurs look to strengthen?
Yeah, look, his era was really, really bad. Like, you can't even look past it. And he has these moments where he just switches off. You just think, like, what are you doing? So on his day, he's gonna give you a 10 out of 10, or he's gonna drop a 2 in your face. Like, there's no difference. But as far as him being done in the league, I don't think so. De Gea maybe, but not Lloris. I think he's still got
So
like 2 seasons that he can give Spurs. But De Gea, I just think for the way that United want to play, I mean, if Ten Hag sticks around, he can't do that with De Gea. Like, his vision is not going to work with David De Gea. So I
okay,
think De Gea
so
more than
you think Hugo Lloris is not done at the hair? It's looking a bit shaky. But now, I personally feel that's a bit of a hypocrisy, right? I feel like there's a certain level of contradiction in that, because
yeah.
I view them similarly okay, you make a good point about different systems, right?
Yeah.
De Gea is more exposed in that United system than Lloris is in the Spurs team. But if you're a team, and I want to just go to Mvu with this question. If you're a team that's playing a low block and in transition, is the number one most important thing not a reliable man between the sticks? Mvu.
I'm here.
Yeah, that was for you, bro. Do you not feel that if you're playing a low block system, like Conte is doing with Spurs, where it's in transition, the most important position is your goalkeeper? It all starts from there, and the solid defense starts with him.
Yes and no. Like, the keeper needs to be solid. So yes, that's a given. I think Lloris can be, but I just don't trust him. Like, the errors that he has, you tend to cause. Okay, no. Let me rephrase that. I think the error that he made, he has that in him, but I don't think he will do that 5 times or 7 times in a season where the team will lose. But in a big moment, then yes.
So
one thing I think he does do is that he is kind of quick in transition, like getting the ball out and all. I don't think he takes too long with that. He's just not super great on his feet. But I agree. I think for the way Conte wants to play, I don't think they need a different keeper. But maybe just a better one. But you could get a like for like, and it would still work. Because I don't think Courtois was that great, in starting attacks or anything like that as well. But he was just really solid. Yeah.
So Matthew, the question I want to ask you now, before we kind of get a closing in this Arsenal versus Spurs game, it's leaving Spurs a bit, but now looking at France, who starts at this World Cup, Hugo Lloris or Maignan?
I mean, look, Hugo Lloris is the national team. He's the captain. He's going to start. If it was based on current form, Maignan has to start. But Lloris he's France's captain.
Because remember, Maguire was United's captain too. Let's start there. But now, as a goalkeeper, right, with your expertise, who are you more confident in? Because I'm sorry, I'm pressing you on this Hugo Lloris situation, but I really don't know how this guy. I think there's a misalignment in this Spurs team. When I look at Tottenham, this is the thing that makes me not fear you the way I feel I should. Because with Son and Kane, everyone should fear you guys. But the reason I don't fear you is because there's a misalignment in direction of what exactly what is the standard for this team. And I'm saying this because as an Arsenal fan, around Ozil and Sanchez's prime, we had the same thing. You can't have Ozil and Sanchez in their prime feeding Welbeck or feeding, Giroud. You need a certain standard. So do you feel that Hugo Lloris is of that standard, a World Cup caliber goalkeeper, a Spurs team on the ascension? Do you feel that this guy has life to sustain himself at that level?
Look, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because if Conte is a long-term plan for Spurs, which I'm not 100% sure of, I think he's an okay fit because the way Conte plays, he plays in a low block. As a goalkeeper, if you're playing 14 with a low block, the only thing you need to really do is come for a cross because the spaces are out wide and be a decent shot stopper. And I think he does those two things very well.
Fair.
So,
okay.
Like I said, I think he'll have another 2 years, another 2 seasons, but we haven't really signed any or been linked with any keeper that's a replacement. I mean, Golini, I think, was our number 2 last season. And
I did not know that. I won't lie. First time I'm hearing that name.
Yeah. Yeah. So they haven't really identified a successor, I think. But for now, I think he's okay. Like, it's not really one of the positions where we're in a dire situation.
Agreed. Khanya, you were gonna say?
I take it back. I take it back. Sorry, it's me. I take it back. Lloris is washed. I take it back. He's washed.
What did you see in this time that changed your mind?
I just remembered who was speaking about. He's washed, bro. He's washed.
Okay, hold on. On the Hugo Lloris thing, because I'll close this, and I have 2 questions for Khanya and Mvu. Okay, so on the Hugo Lloris thing, the keeper perspective, I really appreciate because I guess as an outfield player myself and who doesn't really have that lived experience, I don't necessarily know the traits that need to be emphasized in certain positions. I agree. Great point, Matthew. Shot stopping and cross collecting, Hugo Lloris can do. Now, moving on to another player, who I feel is under fire a bit, Heung-min Son. I want to know, Khanya, how did you feel about that performance from him?
I think it felt like his performance for most of the season. I find it amazing that he scores a hat-trick against probably the worst performing side in the league, Leicester, and somehow it felt like everything got erased. That guy's not playing as well and hasn't been for quite a while. I can't remember when else I saw a good performance from Son where he didn't score for someone who's a winger. I think there needs to be a lot of questions around Spurs as a whole when Son isn't performing. I don't know if they're as solid as we'd like to think, especially right now.
I think just to rebuttal on that, I think Son is suffering. He's suffering from a very rigid system because you can quite clearly see that in Conte's system, he is the outlet. He is the goal guy, right? I think when you play for Antonio Conte, what happens is there is a convergence of goal scorers in the team. So for Spurs, it's Kane and Son. And what's now happened is his game has seemingly become determined. Like his effectiveness has become determined by games, and that's so unfair on him because I feel he is a winger and a player technically sound and who works extremely hard and can create. So I feel like other aspects of his game are kind of being overshadowed because I didn't really care about the whole no goal thing until the whole world started going a bit crazy, you know. So Khanya, do you feel that he is perhaps suffering similarly to say a João Felix by a system?
No, because he won a golden boot last season. I think we might just be seeing a little bit of the Obo thing. You get the big contract, then you start to perform a little bit worse. Because when I look at Spurs' squad, when you look at Spurs' squad, I'm a bit, I don't know. I look at why Richarlison was signed. I'm just like, if he's gonna replace anyone on the side, it's Son, like long term.
Yeah.
So,
you were gonna. Mvu, do you have something to say?
Yes, it just sounds like Salah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
that is a good point. And then to you, it's really to do with Arsenal, and I kind of actually I want to get predictions. I'm going to get predictions from all three of us because I have a friend named Vukani who I've been bantering. He's a Liverpool fan. You know him, Khanya, Vukani Moyo. I have been having him, especially after that 3-3 Liverpool Brighton. And I've just been reminding him, you know, errors end, to quote your manager, Tobi. So, Mvu, Arsenal, Liverpool, how are you feeling going into that game? Can you give me a prediction, a scoreline?
I'm confident. I really want us to win that game. I need us to win that game. You guys know how I feel about that team. I just hope these boys don't, because I think that's my only fear with this side is that I do feel sometimes in the biggest moments, and I'm done with the excuse of that the players are young. Like, this is how you gain experience for big moments. You have to step up. That's a big test for us. This is a very good.
Arsenal genuinely world class, or are they going through like a very good period?
I think we're bordering world class. I think we're bordering it. We're not there yet, but we're bordering it. To kind of go to Mvu's point. Typically with young squads, like, you know, this is when you transform. And
yeah,
I agree. We have to let go of we're the youngest team in the league. What happens is if they take that step, in hindsight, in 4 or 5 years, we look back and say, fuck, he was 24, he was 25. We can't keep riding this thing because it's like you're playing you're navigating two lanes. We're either a good team or we're a young team. We can't keep being a good young team. So I like the way Mvu put that, and I think we're bordering world class. Sorry, Mvu, quickly, you want to give us your prediction?
If Martinelli turns up and Jesus turn up and they finish Trent, 3-1 to the Arsenal.
Interesting. Okay. Khanya, because I know you've been monitoring the year 7 curse of Jurgen Klopp. How are you feeling going into this game, and what prediction can you give us?
2-0 to the Arsenal, I think.
Clean sheets. Nuts.
I think we're overdue one, to be honest. I'd like to think that that's what we'll be the most focused on. We keep conceding really stupid goals.
Very stupid.
Against Leicester, I'm expecting us to put in, because for me that's the big game, not the Spurs game that we always win at home. That shouldn't be celebrated too much as Arsenal fans. The game we need to win is the game on Sunday.
I agree.
So yeah, I'm hoping for a 2-0 win. I remember Oak saying, "Well, clip the audio, please. I pray to God you have it all saved, and we can enjoy that together in a week's time."
Okay, no, perfect. Because look, I think going into this game, I want to remind you, gentlemen, of a fixture. I think it was December 2017. Arsenal's in a winter wonderland. I'm getting those vibes. I'm getting those vibes this weekend. And Vukani Moyo, you were pestering me in the DMs for a prediction. I'm saying it's high scoring and it's going to be marginal. But I can see Arsenal winning this game 4-2 or a repeat of the 2017 and we're getting a 3-3. I can say definitively right now, October 3rd, 3 p.m. where I am in the US, Arsenal are not losing that game against Liverpool at the Emirates. That is my take. And And now, sorry, just to kind of transition into our next segment, because we're talking about teams underperforming. Tobi Animashahun, I I really just want to know what was going through your mind when the third goal went in, because I feel like that was the deflating goal. How did you feel being 3-0 down in the first 30 minutes of this fixture?
Tobi stopped messaging us on the group. He was messaging us during the North London derby. During the United game, he was not saying anything.
No
I
conversation.
just want to put that out there.
So I just want to know. Actually, Tobi, the fourth goal, when it was 4-0, how did you feel?
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. That's when I was a bit scared, because I actually thought it was gonna start touching 7 or something like that. Because at that point, then it's just like, then you can't even show face. You can't really walk on the streets with your shirt or anything like that, because what's the game, bro? Because then I would have probably, I don't know what I would have done, but I did. Before the game, I was confident that we would either win. Actually, I said we would win. Because I actually thought that that's what would happen. Like, I thought we were not serious, but I don't know. Maybe I was deluded, but that's just normal as a United fan. But I just didn't think we were going to get smoked. That was what I did not think was going to happen. I thought those days were behind us, but it is what it is.
I think this game with United, it tells me two things. One of the things we spoke about on this podcast, Ten Hag is caught between philosophies. He doesn't know exactly what he wants to do. And I think that is a problem in a game like this, where if there is one team in this league where you have to have a game plan and know how you're going to play, it's against Man City. It actually it actually tells me three things. The second thing it tells me is Arsenal really fucked up at Old Trafford. We really, really were childish, but not to make this an Arsenal conversation. And the third thing it tells me, and Tobi, I guess you can intervene here. It kind of makes me question if Casemiro was a Ten Hag signing, because I saw Mark Goldbridge tweet. He's talking about Casemiro needing to, wait his turn essentially because other players are performing, but Anthony literally came off of his flight, spoke Afrikaans twice, and then he went straight into the starting lineup. So how do you feel about Ten Hag? Do you feel positive or negative that Ten Hag is seemingly giving players a chance? And as a subsidiary to that question, would you rather he just play your best team, or do you kind of like that he's being a bit more measured with how he's approaching your squad?
Nah, I'm definitely happy with the way he's being a bit more measured with the squad. Like, I think there were even reports today about how he is going to be in charge, or he's going to have a say in players getting a new contract. So I think for me, that was also another big thing that he's trying to implement. And then in terms of players, like, I don't know. We can talk about Casemiro all day, but like when you watch him, you can just see he's not up to speed. Like you can just see. Like Grealish made him sit down. Obviously, not that has anything to do with him. But I'm just saying, like, even at just other matches, he just doesn't look like he can really cope with the intensity at the moment. And I don't know if that's the thing of the Premier is maybe actually just really too intense for him, or he's just not up to speed. So I think Ten Hag is just trying to, I guess, like feed him and give him a look, like minutes by minutes, and then see it from there. And then another thing is that we can't just say McTominay hasn't been playing not world class, but like very decent, because he has. So it's not like it's just easy for Casemiro to just break into the team, because where's he going to play? So I don't know. I think Ten Hag's taking the right approach with this. I just think if there's one thing I can speak about in this game that I saw, I guess from a tactical point of view, is that our wingers, as Paul Scholes said, they were doing nonsense. Because like whenever I saw, for example, Anthony or Sancho attacking, you would always see, for example, Grealish and Cancelo coming together, trying to do something there. But from our point of view, it was just Dalot getting destroyed.
He got finished.
He got finished. And I'm just like, oh, like, how does that make any sense? You always, when you happen to with these players, you double up. Tottenham were kind of doing it with Saka. They were always doubling up on him.
Tripling up on Saka, bro.
Yeah, then what would happen is, obviously, sometimes what would happen is they'd pass it out back to Wide to pass it into
Partey.
But like, obviously, you would have let Partey shoot normally, because this guy's going to sky the ball like Keita in that final. But normally, like that's what you would expect, is that you would expect players to move in a certain way. And another point I want to say quickly is that Anthony, although I like his aggressiveness, it doesn't work sometimes. For example, I think you said this on the TL, and I saw a video speaking about how he's too aggressive in his press. So what happens when he gaps for other players? And then, for example, McTominay will get shifted far to the right. There's gaps in the middle. They run
exactly.
So, like, I do think that Ten Hag is implementing these things, but players, they just don't listen, for example. And I think I've always heard this saying before, is that what makes good players, elite players as well, is how well they listen to instructions. So some of these players, they just need to learn that instructions are the way forward. But yeah, that's
this is your greatest contribution to this podcast. You actually just spat bars. Congratulations, my friend.
May I interject?
Yeah, please.
just with the Casemiro point, I think it's important to note that when you're not an attacking player, specifically holding midfielders, it's hard to impact games as much as or maybe it's hard to impact games in the same way that attacking players do with 30 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go. Casemiro's cameos have been coming on to see the game out. I think he should only really be. I don't think he's not up. I don't think he's not ready. I think he should be judged after starting games. I don't see why he didn't start this game. Not because McTominay hasn't been playing well or Eriksen hasn't been playing well, but like you said, Malcolm, Anthony came on. He was signed, and the next day he was playing. Like,
my boy,
I think Casemiro is one of those players, especially for like how exposed they were in the middle. He should have been playing.
Yeah,
there was no reason for him not to. I personally would have benched Bruno and maybe pushed Eriksen further up, because Eriksen's passing selection, Eriksen's passing selection and final ball is just a lot better. A lot of the time in transition, United were losing possession so much because Bruno was either rushing. Like, I know when you play transition, you have to be quick, but his pass selection is just not great. We all know that he's just a high volume player, and in a game like this against City, I think Eriksen would have served better as a better fit, and Casemiro would have been holding Eriksen further up. So Casemiro for me should just be judged when he has time to start games. But I think that was the mistake.
Could be the deep lying playmaker for us. Who's going
to? Sorry, Toby.
My question is, if Eriksen was moving to number 10 to move into a 10, so who is going to be that deep lying playmaker?
Not necessarily even being moved out as a 10, but if you're going to defend as 2-6s, rather have McTominay sit with Casemiro or play McTominay as somewhat of a box to box. You can play with 2-8s. Eriksen should be in charge of those transitions.
Can I tell you the issue with that though? If you're playing Casemiro and McTominay as your base, you are confirmed max 20 passes combined.
Bro, honestly,
max.
But that's for how exposed they were. I don't think that outweighs playing Casemiro there. I don't like they were so open.
Who's gonna get the ball?
Haaland had the most touches
hold on, Toby,
in a game. Haaland had the most touches in a game against United because he was coming in to collect because he had heaps of space. City didn't even play with the 6. Like Gundogan is not a holding player. Like, there was just so much space in the middle. They were so exposed.
But you see, this is the very reason why I think someone like Bruno was, and it's again, Toby, I like the way you paint this picture, because you're not necessarily saying it's a Ten Hag issue per se, because it's a bit too soon to determine that. But I'm disappointed that Bruno was not utilized in this game the way he was against Arsenal, because Arsenal didn't play with the 6 either, right? Because Partey was out, Sambi Lokonga and Xhaka were kind of splitting the responsibility, and Bruno was in that pocket and ripping us to shreds. I understand why you go to someone like Eriksen and Mvu, because he is a bit more temperamental and measured, but he just doesn't have the legs anymore. And you kind of saw that in this game, that when it comes to transition, whether it's defensively or going forward, Eriksen is very much in his PLO period. I think the biggest takeaway for me from this game was actually from Man City's point of view, and I think it highlights just the levels and the fact that I think Man United fans were kind of getting ahead of themselves. I think it's a journey with the coach. You've seen it with Arteta. Not even to say we've arrived at our destination, but you can't skip stages. And I feel like United fans, after beating Arsenal, with you guys like to make it seem like a small team, but that got your whole fan base believing again. I think you kind of skipped a few stages. And if you saw City the way they set up, this is the first time this season I've seen Man City play with traditional left and right backs. There was no inversion with those two players. So that told me that Pep believed we can run these guys with just three in the middle. Mind you, it's formation wise, because of the way United set up with tucked in outside players, it was essentially 3v5 in the midfield. So I understand why Mvu is going a bit extreme and saying we need Scott and Casemiro, because quite clearly the biggest issue with Man United was the stability in the midfield. I think again, when you're playing Man City, you need an identity and you need to understand how you're going to play. And I actually want to take this to Matthew, because I know your team is phenomenal against City when it comes to playing with intention. Over the past 3 seasons, you guys have killed them. What do you think Ten Hag should be looking to do in these big games? Should he be looking to punish for where United are as a club? Should they buy into this possession-based thing, or do you think they should be looking to punish in transition and maybe have a bit more of a pragmatic approach with who they play in that midfield role?
I think that will be determined by who you're playing. But ideally, I'm big on trusting coaches and the vision that they try and implement. So I think not against top 6 sides, I think their United should be looking to try and hold the ball more, control games a lot better. But against teams like Man City, Liverpool, I just don't think you're going to beat them trying to beat them at their own game. Like, you're not going to go to City and have the ball. You shouldn't even really try. You should be disciplined, close the spaces, be very compact, force the ball wide. But as far as United, in the context of their current predicament, I don't think that they should have a more calculated approach when facing bigger sides.
Sorry, can I just ask a question there? And it's probably to the other 3 Arsenal fans. It's like it'll be a quick thing. Just in terms of, so when you guys go to City or City come to you, are you more pragmatic or stay the same? That's my question.
Far more pragmatic.
Can I answer this?
Just go ahead.
I was gonna say, Khanya, in my opinion, so there's different areas of Arsene Wenger. There's the inception, when things got running, and the end. My favorite performance of Arsene Wenger at the end of his reign at Arsenal was the 2-0 at Man City, where for the first time he said, I am going to be pragmatic. And if you remember, Khanya, that game we played, it was 2015. We played a low block, right? Not just sitting off, though, a very intense low block. And Santi Cazorla was the whole transition. Everything went through him. And we scored a goal. Giroud scored a free kick off of a Cazorla, a header off of a Cazorla free kick. And I think the second goal was scored in transition. I forget. So, Tobi, when you ask that question, it's Man City. There's no shame in going to the Etihad. And as Matthew just said, kind of finding a more pragmatic way to play. It's different playing a top 6 game at Old Trafford, where we know what that stadium's like when the fans are believing, versus at the Etihad, where you already have an inferiority complex. I think that's the way to you have to just kind of find the nuance in, as Matthew said, who you're playing. Where are they as a team? And there's no way with this fucking robot doing what he's doing in this league, you can say, as Mvu pointed out, Eriksen and McTominay as a base. That is crazy. I want to go to Khanya, though. Because I feel Khanya and I have been unfairly painted in how we felt about ice cold Tony Martial. And I want to know, Khanya, what do you make of that cameo appearance at the end? Do you feel that there is still something there for him? And do you feel there is a way, more importantly, in my opinion, to get Ronaldo and Martial to coexist? So let's start off with, how do you feel about Tony for the rest of the season?
Ice cold Martial, my favorite French striker. Honestly, I love talking about this guy. I think for the first time since LVG probably has a coach that wants to focus around him and like his attributes. The rest of the season, I think Martial could. I think he could get like probably 15 league goals if he can stay fit. I don't think United have a better striker in their squad that suits them the way he does. The second question, Ronaldo and Martial, that I'm less optimistic about. I don't.
You don't think there's an opportunity to play your preferred 4-4-2 diamond if you have those two up top?
I don't think United's midfield is weaker now than it was last season. Losing Pogba and replacing him with a less physically capable Eriksen, for me, just kind of handicaps them. I don't know who they'd be playing in that midfield. That'd be dog shit. I think. I don't think they should be trying to do that to themselves. Also, I don't know how Ronaldo fits back into this team. Like, I think that they should be trying to find a way to make that work, definitely. But the only way I can see it is if they were to put Martial back at left wing, and we know he gets bouts of depression whenever he plays there.
Yeah.
So
antidepressants are gone if he goes to the wing, bruv.
Yeah. So I don't see that working for them, unfortunately. Like, if United played a 4-4-2, like a flat 4-4-2, then sure there might be something there, but I don't think that's what Ten Hag has about him. He seems to be almost too rigid when it comes to this. Like, he feels like a philosophy more than a strategy kind of coach. And I think yesterday showed that to a T, really. Like, going for that type of going into that game the way they did felt naive, and I don't know if he'd abandon those principles to try and maximize Ronaldo, for example. And I don't think he should, really. Ronaldo's old. It's the last year of his contract. Maximizing results of Ronaldo this season isn't going to help the rest of the squad in exactly the same way. So, yeah. But
okay.
But to answer the question, Martial, 15 league goals. That's my prediction.
15 league goals. Do you want to put any conditions on that, or do you think just outright?
Provided he's fit, I think he's capable of that. If he can start 30 league games, I think that's what he's capable of doing.
Decent.
Okay, no, yeah, I agree with that too, because look, maybe not 15, but I think he'll get double digits. And people have made me the public enemy number one with Martial. I've never not rated the guy. I've always felt the Henry comparisons off of one goal where Martin Skrtel kicked his knee, Naji. But anyways,
that goal. For me, my opinion on Martial, bro, he's just one of those fortunate guys, bro.
Yeah.
He's such a fortunate player.
But you create your own luck, as they say in the streets of Baltimore. But now, Tobi, I like the way Matthew kind of ended. I'm coming to you to close this segment. I like the way Matthew contextualized Spurs versus Arsenal, and he's the first Spurs fan that actually has the mentality. I've come across that as the mentality of a team that is going that has a direction for his team. Derbies are great, guys, but at the end of the day, it's just 3 points gone. There is still a whole season to play. So, Tobi, we spoke about Man United's predictions, where you think they could finish. Does this, obviously, Spurs left the Emirates with some pride, whereas you guys, no.
It was 3-0 though, so yeah, we have some pride.
Okay, yeah.
Up too, so.
I don't know if you saw your greatest manager almost have an aneurysm in the stands, bro. There was no pride in that game. But I want to know, all banter aside, do you think this derails you guys going forward? And do you think your goals for this season are still intact? Let's start off there. Do you think does this impact you in any way?
No, it doesn't. And just to quote my guy Bones, second half of the season we're doing a title charge, boy. So don't worry.
Wow.
Can we kick Tobi off? I'm sure he has better things to do. I think I've heard enough from him for the day.
So Tobi, prediction for Everton and United, because that's going to be a game. Best. I think it's best defense versus worst defense, if I'm not mistaken.
If Lampard wins, I'll just say this: if Lampard wins, I'll give him a chance. If Lampard wins that game, I'll give him a chance. No slander until the end of the season.
But yeah, 3-1 Man United.
At Goodison.
Anthony goal, Martial won, or Rashford won. And then I have a feeling Iwobi will score.
Tobi at Goodison.
Do you think I care, boss?
Wow. Okay. We'll be back next week for sure. Hopefully with some tears. But and the final segment, guys, is we won't be able to dive too deeply into it, but just to get an idea from you guys. It's perfect that this is coming off of a Manchester City conversation because this is what they are. Oh, I apologize. We're supposed to discuss South African football, so I think that's what we should do because we actually are South Africans. So, let's actually go there. So when I wrote this segment and we came up with it and decided on it as a group, it was on the back end of Bafana playing. I think it was Lesotho or Botswana or Sierra Leone. They had just played Sierra Leone, and apparently it's reported that there were 68 people in attendance, which is, listen, I don't care who you're playing. There is no way you can have 168 people in attendance if you're a national team and a footballing nation like South Africa. So I guess the question I have, starting with Matthew, is you are a goalkeeper at Mamelodi Sundowns. Where do you think? Let me start off with this. Which era of South African football post our AFCON win in '96? Which era do you think was our golden era? If you could just give me like a time period of years after '96, from '96 to 2022. If you could give me like a 4-year horizon that you think South African football was at its peak with popularity as well as quality.
My opinion, the around time Pirates went back to back. Oh no, was it back to back or treble?
I think it was treble when McCarthy was back.
Yeah. I think Ruud Krol was the coach. I think that was the best era of South African football that I've watched. Because around that time, the quality of the teams that were competing for the league, like, I mean, there was a season where Ajax Cape Town pushed Pirates to the very end. Pirates team was unbelievable. Chiefs, when Stuart Baxter came back, they won the league around that time as well. So, and even Sundowns were building something, but Wits was also in the background. So I think that was the most competitive that the league's been. And I just think the overall quality of the players.
Just to interject you, so you're saying from about 2011 to about 2015?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that something that, what do you think has changed between now and then? Because I haven't been in SA for a while. I'm in the US, but I just feel like we've been stuck in a transitionary period for the past 4 years. And quite clearly, fans are disgruntled. If these reports of 168 people in attendance are true, fans are disappointed. So what do you think is going wrong with the PSL and with Bafana to the, like, is it a thing of player selection with the national team? Is it a thing of, let's focus on the national team. Do you think with Bafana, it's a thing of player selection? Do you think it's a thing of continually choking, people being fed up? Like, how do you think they can go about recapturing, the 2010 to 2015 period where people were seemingly more invested?
Look, I don't think we've moved with the times in terms of football. Like, football's changed from then up until now. It's changed drastically, and we haven't really evolved, if that's the best term to use. Our football hasn't really evolved. It's if anything, it's regressed, because I feel like this might be a bit harsh to say, but I just don't think the players are of the same quality. Like, there's a lot of average players in the DStv Premiership, which should never be the case. Like, I mean, despite how everybody feels about any Premier League footballer who they think is subpar, that's still an elite footballer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're going to get a certain level from them. And in the PSL, I just think they've started to accommodate a lot of mediocre players.
Okay, so player quality is something that you're really starting to see is an issue at the PSL level, and it's filtering clearly into the national team. Mvu, How do you feel about the PSL moving like the NBA and the purchasing of licenses? Do you think that is at the root of what is not ruining, but preventing the PSL from really asserting itself as the powerhouse league that it should be?
I have a bit of a split opinion on this, and it was changed when I spoke to someone that's like has very good like close ties with Amazulu at some book events. But I think the problem I have with that is some of the teams that are being bought are like they're like for example, Bloemfontein Celtics is not a team that should ever been sold.
I agree.
They had such a huge fan base, so I think those types of purchases I don't get. I don't understand why it's allowed. But I think the league is just maybe a bit tied with money. So I'm a bit here or there. But I do think like more than anything, like Matthew, what Matthew said is that we're not really going with the times. I think there's less focus on youth development. I think that's what Pito wants to do here as well. The best players are all going to one team, where I don't think it was necessarily like that in the time that we had, like in the eras that like obviously if you were Chiefs or Pirates, you'd get the best players, but then there was still a good mix of players in different teams.
Yeah.
Where there was a stage where Sundowns was signing anyone that had a very like a top season. You knew that there's a possibility that they're going to Sundowns, but that's because Sundowns could afford that, where other teams can't. So I don't know. I just feel like the league needs some form of maybe like some commission that could make it a bit more competitive.
Yes.
But
can I just add on to what you said, Mvu?
Yeah,
cool.
go ahead.
Like you said, there's something that you mentioned where if a player has a good season, he ends up at the one team. Not gonna mention the name, but ends up at the one team. And I feel like in South African football, we have this tendency to be very erratic and impulsive with signing players, because the player can one good season, like a single, not even, player can play 20 games, score 8 goals, and that's our yardstick for excellence.
Yes.
And just based off that, they earn a big move. Like, I mean, let's if you want to do a European comparison, James Maddison, he's had several good seasons at Leicester. Yeah, granted, I think Leicester have refused to sell him at some point.
Yeah.
But
he's not going anywhere.
Effective to big teams was not just based off one season.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah.
In a day, you can have one decent season. I won't even go as far as saying good. You can have one decent season and you get a big money move. So our measuring stick for players doing well is just, it's completely off.
And the reason I mentioned the NBA, maybe I should have said the MLS. I made that comparison as a bit of a jab to American sports, but also as perhaps a blueprint for the PSL to follow. Maybe not from the perspective of East and West conferences, because I think that's nonsense, but the whole notion of having salary caps, having designated player money, that the MLS implements to kind of, as Mvu said, encourage competitiveness, make it more fair, but most importantly, have more youth development. As far as youth development, the MLS is amongst the best in the world, because how it works is you have homegrown players, and if your team has X number of homegrown players, your designated players cap increases. So you use your designated player cap to sign your big names, right? So it's almost the equivalent of a max contract in the NBA or the NFL. So they incentivize teams to say, promote more players from your academy into your first team, because if you do that, you can then afford Chiellini, Bale, Gerrard, Lampard, or whomever. And I think a model maybe not to that degree, but something similar needs to happen in the PSL, because I think the thing that loses me the most is just how much talent gets lost, man. Like the period that Matthew highlighted, 2011 to 2015, 2016, that's also the period where I think SA football was at its height. Granted, to the listeners, we're all, in our early to mid 20s, so we didn't see what the PSL really looked like in the early 2000s. But the reason I look at that period and I say that's my favorites, because there was a blend of, legends coming back in Benny McCarthy. There were so many youth players coming through the ranks. We all played, academy football at a certain level. And there were guys coming through, whether it's Pakamani, whether it's Liam Jordan, coming through the system. So there was a buzz, there was excitement. And it seems like, to Matthew's point, it's almost like they've distanced that and gone more towards this model of just buying what seems to be finished products, but they aren't in fact finished. So
may I just also, like, just sorry to interrupt you, may I add something specifically about youth? That's something I find that I'm passionate about, and like when I make money, it's something I'm definitely going to do here. Is that I think people also but maybe people don't know, people forget that, especially in those years and up to now, at a youth level, there were lots of players that were like playing in the same light as the European youngsters at the time. Maybe not the same systems, but South Africa was qualifying for World Cups. They were doing well. These are all at youth level, doing well at an AFCON level. There were so many people that I knew that were going to England, to Spain, to Germany, to France, and having times with teams there. Some people stayed, and some people in the national teams, they had I forgot his name, but he was a youth player for Dortmund, coming into the national team. But I know this because obviously I had friends that were in those settings, friends at Newcastle, like at a youth level. And also recently, the Stellenbosch team went to the UK and they won some cup, but then they were playing against, I think, Forest and maybe Leicester.
Okay. Yeah.
So there shows that at a youth level that people can compete, but how you were saying like things get lost going up is because there aren't many. The people that have the money, there isn't that focus on developing the talent that is there. There could be a lot more stories like Lyle and Pesitao that go there and do extremely well because there are so many people that go there at a youth level. But
and to interject just there, it fits perfectly with what's the picture that Matthew was painting, because part of what's hindering that youth development is the quick trigger signing of players. After like half a good season, you have an academy player, you have a guy who just scored 8-10 goals in the PSL. You scrap that project and you jump to, the guy that's had a good start to the season. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes.
I also just want to say, guys, one thing that I think is in closing, and you can both comment on this and then we'll wrap it up here. I think another massive issue is the fact that the biggest city, or top 3 biggest city in Africa, does not have a team, a PSL team in it. I know Pirates and Chiefs are technically in Johannesburg, but they're not in Johannesburg. How can I think it's crazy that in the past 7 years, Bidvest Wits and Mpumalanga Black Aces is gone, and now Johannesburg does not have a team, guys. That's we imagine how much talent is just going wasted. How do you guys, again, kind of going back to the whole thing of purchasing? I know Mvu said it's dependent on situation, but when you speak about a commission, do you feel, Mvu, this could be something that could be prevented? Because I know, for example, in the NBA, the NBA would not allow anyone to move the Lakers from Los Angeles. You cannot. You've seen like Seattle move to OKC. OKC used to be the Seattle Sonics. We've seen that. You've seen in Buffalo, they used to have a team that's now the LA Clippers. But you will never see the Lakers. You'll never see the Knicks moving, because that's the foundation of the league. How do you feel about, like, I'm quite passionate about this, the fact that in my hometown, my home city, there isn't a professional football team. Let's start with Mvuyelwa. Do you think that can persist, or do you kind of feel that's at the foundation of what's needed to get the league back to where it needs to be?
You like on the commission stuff. I think it could be helpful, but I think the focus should be more on if clubs are bought, there needs to be someone overseeing reinvestment into the club. So that's what the commission could serve for. Maybe not necessarily blocking purchases, but putting things in place where a club is purchased in at least 3-4 years. X and Y needs to be done to improve the club, the youth level. Like, there's so many things that can be done to help professionals, like small, even diets, like things that maybe are a lot more expensive, but just things to improve the overall club. But also, just back to your point, yes, some of these things are situational. So Wits lost their rights because Bidvest was becoming the official sponsor for the league, I think. So they were not going to be able to exist under the same name, so they had to sell. But where I agree is that, like, because I think that the owner that bought the rights, I think they were from Venda. Maybe Matt can interject here, because I think he might know. Yeah, so like things like that, like teams shouldn't have to go to a different city, like you're saying, because you lose the fan base from there. So I think that's ideally, like, a commission could work. Well, in theory, it would be great, but the people buying the clubs have to care about football. They have to. You need so many pizzas, bro. You need pizzas. You need your Sean Bartletts that have, I think, who have been overseas and know how well it can work, for one, and also genuinely have an interest in developing players from here, with the sole purpose of improving the league, but also sending out as many players abroad, which I think that's what they want. They know that players need to play at the highest level for us to compete, and they won't stop players from going abroad. Like, there's always, with those people, it seems like there's an end goal where, you need something like that, where they're forced to focus on improving the league. Everything should be centered around improving the league.
Mm-hmm. And now, Matthew, in closing, from your own experience, do you feel there are enough leagues or cups or organizations in place to truly satisfy how just the mass number of, academy and pro players that are in South Africa? Or do you think South Africa needs to look at expanding? Like in the Premier League, you have the PL Academy, PL Academy 2, then you have the third, then you have the FA Cup, the Youth Cup. So do you think it's enough, or should they be looking to expand?
It's a very good question.
It's a great question. I think the obvious answer is that they should definitely expand. But like, the comparison with the biggest league in the world financially, I don't think they can. Like, I mean, I was fortunate where I was in a proper academy growing up, and you'd be surprised to find out that when you play against other PSL academies, it's just very all over the place. Like, you wouldn't say it's a professional. It's like a professional organization. Like, it's just very much half-assed, So I don't think they can afford to expand, like, at this point in time. But of course, on paper or in theory, they should. But I really don't think it can happen.
And one last question, on the topic of lost talent. I haven't played academy football in South Africa since 2016. So I don't really know what happens when guys get older, because I was 18 at the time. So it was really, truly, truly academy. And from I'd say 19 is when you see guys start to go to reserves and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
From your experience, whether it's just observing or maybe something personal, what happens to those guys that aren't being picked week in, week out, and that don't get fed enough games because there aren't enough of these, leagues or systems in place? What ends up happening to those guys? Do they then just kind of fizzle out at the team, or does the team have things for them to do, maybe like a five-a-side league or something? Like, what happens?
Well, having seen it, because I don't have any personal experience to share on that because I'm still active in football. But having seen a lot of guys lose interest, and because it gets to a point where, and I've seen it happen, and I really don't like this thing of players where they'll say the coach didn't like me. It's okay to say things didn't work out.
Yeah,
but you do see there are some cases where there's a lot of politics in South African football, and look, a lot of it comes down to kickbacks. Coaches want to benefit at the expense of other players. So I'm not saying that happens often, but it does, and I've seen it. And I mean, if you find yourself in that situation, it's beyond your control, and you kind of just take a look at it and think, well, why am I even doing this? So then losing
that causes despondency. Yeah, no, definitely.
Can I just add something to that? And obviously this is not from the same experience as Matthew or anyone that's playing at his level, but I think one thing I can highlight from someone that I know that has been in this system is that obviously there's like Matthew said, there's some form of responsibility of someone, like use your own responsibility in being active about your career. But I feel that at some places teams don't treat players as a representation of their team. So players are injured, they're not helped as much as they should be. At the end of the day, that player is a representative of Pirates, Chiefs, Sundowns, Stellenbosch. Like you represent the club. You were signed for them. Like I don't think some people get helped enough, whether or not it's in the club's capacity. But I think there isn't a focus on helping people as much as they should be. So yeah, that's just my two.
No, for real, and that's a very valid perspective to have. I mean, look, maybe we'll have an episode along the line where we all highlight our experiences playing academy. I do think what Mvu, just in summary, before I close this episode, what Mvu's saying about context is very important, and it's layered, as Matthew said. Sometimes it is things just not working out as a player. That happened to me at Wits. I was at Bidvest Wits. Things didn't work out for me. The way the coach saw me in the team isn't how I saw myself. He didn't think I was good enough to play in the midfield. I didn't want to play as a centre back. You can part ways, and it's perfectly fine. But then when Mvu, on your point of feeling comfortable, that's what I experienced at Black Aces. When I arrived there, for the first time in my career playing football in South Africa, I felt like, I feel home. And Black Aces, I felt, did a great job at making you ambassadors of the club, feeling more than just a number on a shirt or whatever. But we can dive a bit deeper. At another point, gentlemen, thank you so much for this discussion. We lost Khanya and Tobi, hence why it was dominated by us three. But Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. Your perspective is appreciated, much needed. If you have time, we'd love to have you back at some point, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm always keen. I'm always keen to talk football.
Lovely. Mvuyelwa, the future president of SAFA, as always, my brother. Thank you for your insights. I've been your host, and this was another episode of Debates Never Die. Thank you to the listeners.
Peace.